All right, so today I want to quickly go over the midterm exam, and then we get into Ipywidget. And so the midterm exam kind of two extremes. Half of you guys did really well, and half of you didn't. So if you didn't do well, you probably want to see me, see if there's anything I can help. But so far, I don't receive any really questions on GitHub, or if you run into issues, um, you need to see me. You need to ask questions. If you keep quiet and not doing well on lab assignments or exams, it's your choice. Okay, I'm here to help, but if you don't want to ask for help, it's your decision. I cannot force you to always come to see me. And I want to go over that. And for the midterm exam, I didn't expect it to be that difficult. It's 10 lines of code. Okay. So now you have ChatGPT, you have all the large language model, all the website that you can utilize. And we have actually covered it in class. So I would assume this to be pretty basic. And but after I graded the exam, I feel quite disappointed. Although half of you did very well, those consistently show up in class. You know what you're doing. You did pretty well. And like I said, if you don't come to class, if you keep missing the classes, even if you watch the video, I mean, just like myself, when I'm watching the video, I keep like fasting the speed and then skipping. There are a lot of important information that you're going to miss. So I would strongly encourage you just come to class, you listen, and then you follow through. You can ask questions. But if you're really confident that you can do things on your own, you're welcome to stay home, not come to class. I'm perfectly fine, okay? Even if nobody show up, I will still teach and record the video. So you can guarantee it's always going to be a video for that. But make sure you watch every second, okay? If you miss the important information, then you missed it. And that's why you might struggle in the exam. And some of you like missing some of the assignments, or you having issue with the packages or the website, just ask. If you, I mean, we have so far a couple labs that have utilizing that functionality, and you still are right now not finishing up yet. Again, it's your choice. So I highly recommend that you need to really catch up, because we only have a couple more weeks left, and at the end it's going to be too late if you have nothing to show at the end of the semester. So um, anyway, we're going to go through the exam, and I'm going to show you how difficult it is for the exam questions. And I'm pretty sure after I show you the answer, you will say, "Oh, that's easy. I should have done it," but I didn't know why half of you didn't. So and so the first question is pretty simple and straightforward. And let me just show you what I did. For example, asked you to add that to the, or probably I need to git pull first. I asked you that to add a function to your volume module, and this is it. You don't need to even have this complicated. How many lines of code? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. All right, okay. Skip the if and else. I might lose really just one keyword. So essentially, it's 10 lines of code. Okay, 1 hour for you to finish. It should not be that difficult. And I also give the instruction. Where do you get, like, use this function and use um, this function, right? It should not be that difficult. There's examples. So I expect you'll be able to actually do that. And so right now, if it just goes through, this is not the base one. It's not the most robust answers, but at least it should work, right? So if you're passing the image, then you should be able to test whether this one is a file from HTTP or is a local file. If yes, then you want to use local type server to get the type layer. Then you generate the layer. If it's just a name like this, OpenStreetMap or CartoDB, something like that, is a string, then you use this volume type layer, because you know this is just the URL, and then you set the overlay to true. This will allow you to select the one from the layer control, right? And then just repeat that for the right layer. And once you get the layer, just pass into the folder and plug in side-by-side layer. After that, just add two, and then lastly add this one to the map. So let's take a look at the example here. Split map. So I provide two examples. So this one will be the notebook that you need to have that on your website. And you can see the result. Right? So you have this left and right here, and you have these two layer here. You can turn that on and off. You can also use that for a raster data layer. Right? Right? Not too difficult, right? And I also show you the link to the leaf map, right? Leaf map have the exactly same thing. You can just copy the function over. Yes. So it's basically here. Overlay equal to true. If you don't do that, it will be just a radio button. Overlay means if a tile layer, if this allow you to overlay on top of other data layer. So by default, that one I think is false, and that's why some of you are going almost right, but missing this part. It's just showing you as the radio button. So for example, if I turn on this one, just like false. So S. Right. So right now here it will be just the radio button, similar to this one here. Oh, this one I don't have the layer control. So basically, you want it to be a checkbox rather than a radio button. All right. Any questions? And if you go to leaf map, let me quickly show you here. Tutorial and then split. I have all the functions in here and all the examples. So if you're really good at it, you can just simply go to leaf map, just copy this function and then just make it your own. It should not be that complicated. So I'm going to go to maybe here and then API reference, folder maps, right? And you can scroll down to find the split map function like this. You can see all the function documentation and you have something like this. This one is a lot more robust, a lot more complicated, but you should still be able to figure it out. Just copy and paste and then see what function it relies on, and then you can make it. But simplified version, it will be just about 10 lines of code. That's it. Yes? Huh? So mkdocs, you'll be just here. So once you add the notebook, all I need to do is just go over to the bottom here, and then just add this one. That's it, nothing else. Because I added the notebook, and then it's coming up in here, and it's going to show up in here. So you just add a new line, whatever you have. Huh? Uh-huh. So check so if something goes wrong, if the website is not being updated, the best way is just to check the documentation. So if you go to CEO DV, if something goes wrong, there's always a reason. So if you go to the documentation and go inside here, make sure that you have these docs deployed, and you click the details and scroll down. You should be able to find whether it's running it properly or not. And also, you might want to look at the actions. Make sure you have this one, pages build and deploy. If there's nothing over there, that means your website right now is not functioning. And I noticed some of you messed up your repo. So your repo needs to be something like this. And I think some of you like having right now your repo only has one folder. Basically, you pick its name and then you move everything inside. It's going to be problematic because the GitHub action is not going to be executed. It needs to be outside the directory. So if you messed up the structure, you will have a difficulty to have the website is not going to be updated. I can take a look at it later, but there is always a reason why it's not being updated. So, and we have done this a couple times, right? Since we be adding the vector data functionality, add raster functionality, and so you should at least have a couple assignments there to test everything uh, operational. Like I asked in the exam right before that, I said you need to have your documentation operational. If something is wrong, you need to fix it. And always look at the actions. You need to make sure everything is being checkmarked. The most important one is for the website will be the docs. So go inside, see if anything is abnormal. If anything fails here, your website is not going to be updated. So you can look at what kind of dependency it installed, and then you can look at the last one is when it's deploying, whether or not it's really deployed or not. So run mkdocs. So if you go to this one, it's going to basically run through your website, and it's going to show you whether or not it's executing those notebook or not. So for this example, I have this couple notebooks, right? Every notebook is being executed, and then the results are being saved, then published on the website. And this is why over here, GeoTV examples, clip map, right? You can clearly see here, everything's working as expected. The raster file sometimes might take a couple seconds, but usually it should work. If it doesn't, you can refresh it. Hopefully it will comes up. Okay, so right now it's not showing up. Yeah. Okay, show up on the local computer. So you might want to check it later. It's not sometimes just the internet problem. Any other questions? Okay, so that's it. And if you have issues, copy my code and then copy just the function into your package. Then you should be good to go. And then just add notebook. So I hope you learned the lesson. Practice, practice, practice. This course does require you spend some time and efforts. If you just skip classes, don't do the assignments, you're not going to survive. If you come to class, you don't practice, just listen, you won't survive. That's my advice, is to write your code, practice notebook, and then git pull every day. And then once it become your muscle memory, you'll be very comfortable how to do this. Okay, so no questions. We're gonna go into the next section, how to do some interactive widget, and this is where it opens a lot of potentials, allow you to interact with the map. So what we're going to utilize is the package called Ipywidget. So let me go to the website here and scroll down. You should be able to find Ipywidget number 15 here. And we're gonna go through this one to show you how to make your interactive map interactive. So this allows you basically add all kind of widget into the map so that you can, for example, click to open a file, or you can change opacity. You can do a lot of things, and it's up to your imagination. This one you can think about as like web design. What kind of components do you need? How do you want the user to interact with your data? So if you design some web app that allow user, for example, to select an area to download some data, you want to have some buttons allow you to click. And this is where you can really have this kind of component to make your app web app really interactive. So I'm going to go to the repo. Oops. Changes. All right. So now I have the latest version, and I'm going to open the Ipywidget. First, I'm going to show you an example why you might want to use some of these interactive widgets. So I'm going to create a map, and then I'm just going to add a simple raster data. So this is just a imagery from a digital globe. So this is high resolution aerial imagery covering what's this area? Never mind. So anyway, so you see this imagery, right? So this is very high resolution. You can zoom in to see more details. I believe it is 30-meter resolution, so it's really, really high. So this file is pretty decent size. Once you load the imagery to the map, sometimes you might want to, for example, compare the data layer with your base map data layer, and you can certainly change the opacity. So let me show you here. Maybe first let's see what kind of data layer. So right now this map has two data layers. The first one is just the base map layer, and the second one is the raster tile layer, right? So the imagery, this is the raster data layer there. This is the second layer. We also have the OpenStreetMap beneath it. So if you need to access to the data layer, so everything here on the map is kind of just like a Lego pieces. So you can actually get access to that particular data layer. So right now, because we have two layers, I can have square brackets and then -1 to get access to the last layer that we added. Right now, it doesn't really show you anything, but you can, for example, look at the URL, or you can look at the opacity. So I just type the opacity. See, by default, the opacity is 1.0. That means it's fully opaque. And if you want to make it transparent, what's the value be? What's the opacity value for transparent? 0. So take a look, right? If I assign to 0, see that? Gone. I can turn it back on. See how interactive it is? I can say to 0.5, then it becomes 0.5. So it's very, very powerful, very flexible. And let me show you. Even better, we can do it like this way. So because we can assign a variable to the last layer, and then we use this one called interact. So basically, it will be like this. I can do it like this way because everything on this map is a widget, especially an Ipywidget. So if it is an Ipywidget, you can do a lot of things. So I just dot interact, you see here, and then you can parentheses. So what you want to interact, it depends on what kind of things you want to change, right? So you can have an opacity, provide the parameter here, opacity equal to, and then inside you can have kind of like a tuple. The start would be 0, and then the end would be 1, and then the step. The step means how fast you want to change for every step on. But 0.1, that means from 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4. So this just do 0.1, for example, and then run it. See? By default, it's going to show you this slider. So the slider is going to be a minimum value 0, maximum value is 1. And take a look. Right? Every time you see this increase by 0.1. If it is too much, you can maybe just 0.01. It should work as well. Right? So this will be a lot more smooth because you're going to increase by 0.1. So take a look. So you can actually do this for every data layer. So everything is just like a widget. And we can do it like this. For example, I change this one like this. But we also have the basement layer. You can do the same thing. For example, I can have this one to 0.2, right? -2 means is because we only have two data layers. -1 will be the last layer, the raster. -2 will be the first layer. Or it can be 0. Either one is fine. So that means right now we are accessing the basement data layer. Okay? And because it's the widget as well, we can also change the opacity. So take a look. Run this one. So now this slider is controlling the basement layer. And see that So isn't it nice to be able to control the opacity? You can actually add something to the map. You can add the slider to the map rather than having the slider outside the map. I will show you examples later, but it's really, really powerful. So in Ipywidgets, it's actually pretty simple. So I'm going to show you here, Ipywidgets. If you go to the documentation and then go to the controls, there's one called widget control. So the widget control is the one actually controlling whatever things you want to control. So it's define a widget control, and then you can create a widget, and then passing the widget here with the slider, and then inside just add the widget into the map. So like this, if you have a widget, either it's a slider or drop down list or anything, and then you put the widget in the control, because in Ipywidgets, you only accept two types of things add to the map. It's either a layer or it's either the control. Okay, so you add the base map layer, raster data layer, those are things called a layer. The other one is called control. So you're gonna put the widget in the control, add the control to the map. So you can think about the control is just like a holder for the map, for the widget. Make sense? The widget itself cannot be added directly to the map because Ipywidget only can add two types. Okay, add layer or add control, or you can just use the .add function. But the widget need to be put somewhere in the control and then add the control to the map. So if this is something you really want, we can certainly do that. But I'm going to show you how you can do this. So how about let's copy these two lines. I'm going to show you how we can add this one to the map so that it shows up on the map. Then we cover some basic widget. Okay, so I'm going to just from Ipywidget import widget control, and then I'm just going to have the float slider. Okay, so this will be the float slider. Okay, because we're going to change the opacity. It's going to change from 0 to 1, right? With the step 0.1. The JS link basically is a function allows you to synchronize the attribute between your slider and also the layer properties. And we're going to see how we can do that. So let me run this one. Then we can start creating the slider. So for example, we can create a slider called opacity slider equal to float, and then description opacity minimum 0, maximum 1, step 1, and then value 0.1, and continuous update. You don't need you don't need all of this, but I'm just going to maybe accept the default. It looks just so complicated, but we can actually skip many of those. Read out, and then the readout format style, blah blah. So let's try this one out. Okay, so this is so-called the opacity slider. If I right now display this one, you see by default it's 0.5, and then the minimum 0, maximum is 1. Also, it's horizontal. Readout means whether or not you want to show the values here or not. And continuous means when I'm dragging my mouse, the value will be updated. See that? If the readout, the continuous update is to, okay, it should be continuous. Continuous update. Let me try this one. Yeah, it's the same thing. But let me show you here. I want the step maybe to 0.01. This one again. Okay. So right now, this is what we have. Oops. Oh, because the readout format, because I only have the 1 digit. So it doesn't really show you more details. I can have 2 digits here. So in this way, it will show you more. Right? So this is basically just like the slider. And the slider basically is like a constructor. The float slider allows you to define what do you want. So the description is this here. Minimum, you know, right? Maximum, step, value, continuous update, horizontal, readout, yes. And these are things you don't really need, but default settings. So once we have this slider, how do we link the slider to the map so that we can change the slider, it will change the map. Right now it's independent, right? So here, if you look at, if you change this one, it doesn't really change the map. Maybe let me show the map here so you can see more information, right? So this is the map we have right now, and that's the slider, okay? The slider right now is independent. It doesn't control the map. So what we need to do is to tell the program that when I change the slider, you're going to, based on the value of the slider, you're going to update the properties of this layer. Make sense? And so let's see how are we going to do that. So what we want to do is to use the layer. So for example, let me create a new code block. I would say maybe base map layer equal to m.layers, okay, dot 0. Right? So right now we're accessing the base map data layer. We can see what's the base map opacity right now. Okay? Right now is 1. That means it's fully opaque. But what we want to do is to, when we change the slider, we want to link that one to the attribute. So if you go to the example, look at this JS link here, the slider, the value, and the m.zoom. Basically right now what we want to do here, let me come back to this one so you understand. So this is the key. How do we synchronize the slider with the opacity of the data layer? So we're going to use the JS link. Perfect. Just one line of code. So what we're doing right now is, okay, because the slider has the value, right? So this is the slider, when whatever value you have, for example, opacity slider. What's the value right now? Here, dot value. Okay, 0.57. Look at this one, right? So the value is being updated continuously. If I drag the slider, what's the value right now? 0.32. If I run this one again, you will see it's updated. So that value is always going to get from the slider, right? So you can change it. It's being updated. So this JSLink function is going to tell the program whatever value you get from the slider, I'm going to set the same thing for the opacity, because the layer, this base map layer, is the opacity attribute, right? So all I need to run this line and see what happens. See? Right now it's being updated. And look at this. So one line of code, you can actually have a widget to control that. And once you have this widget, the next is we can have a control, and then you can add the control to the map. Then this widget can stay inside the map so they can control the opacity. So what we need to do here is to, based on this widget that we have, now we can delete this one. We don't need this anymore. Oh, we do need this one, but we don't need this one. So create a widget, and then figure out what layer do you want. Then JS link. Once you have this, now we can actually have a control. So we can add a control called control equal to Ipywidget control, and then the widget equal to the opacity slider, and the position is in the upper right corner. So run this one. Once you have the control, then we can just m.add control, or you can say m.add add. You don't really need anything. So control. Okay, so pay attention to this map right now. I'm going to add a control to the upper right corner. See? So now I have this control exactly within the map. It's not outside the map anymore. And let's try it out. Isn't it nice? You can do it for other layer as well, because I use the base map layer equal to 1, but I can also have like m layers 1, because earlier I added the master data layer in there. So although you might want to change the name, but everything else remains the same. Add the control. You might add another one. Actually, right now, this is the one controlling the base map. So see this one? And the two actually are linked together because it's the same object. You're not supposed to have this, but you see how cool it is. So lock the widget. So let me clean this up just to show you from the beginning, so you know exactly what we are doing here. So we import the map, okay, and then create the map. After that, you can add a data layer. Maybe somewhere here. Let me add of this back to the map. It looks super complicated, but I just want to let you know logic. How are you going to do things? Okay. So what you need to do is create a map and then add whatever data layer that you want. Then you can decide, okay, how I'm going to change the properties. You can change the opacity. You can change the band combination. You can change the minimum and maximum. There are lots of things you can control. Just like you're using desktop GIS to control what the image is going to look like, you can actually create those widgets to control things, whatever you want. So, and then we're going to use the widget control JS link, create the opacity slider, and then you're going to access this one. For example, here, right now I can just click like this, then JS link, and then create a control, add a control. Okay, and that's it. So now we have this control controlling the raster tile layer. Okay, and this is it. You can add more widget to it. You can add a drop down list. You can add a color bar. You can add a lot of other things. So if you want to see what kind of widget is available, you can just Ipywidget list. Just Google it. You should be able to find tons of widgets in here. For example, a slider, integer slider, floating slider. It can be vertical if you want it to be vertical. It can be double range. So here, range slider means you have a minimum, you have a maximum, something like that. So if this is what you want, you can also add this. So keep in mind, every widget has a value attribute. So basically, what you are, the user, depends on what the user is changing. Behind the scene, it will be able to actually grab the value and then passing into the program to do computation. So you can floating, you can have a progress bar. You can also have an input box with number. So I'm going to basically take this here. I can increase the value or I can decrease it. Okay. In text, you can also have a Boolean, right? You can click. If you click, it's going to highlight the button. Click again, it's going to deselect the button. And it can also be the checkbox like this. And drop down this, something like this. Number, radio buttons, select widget. You can have a list of widget allow you to select. And you can also have text, for example, select different options. You can also have multiple tabs like this. So everything that I'm showing you here, these things can be added to the map to control the behavior of the map. Just like you go online to fill out some forms, you can have all kinds of this. You can have a string. You can also have a multiple text box like this. You can have a combo, right? Or even a password. So you can create a map, allow the user to enter some tokens, keywords, or anything. You can have a label. You can have even HTML. So this one here, this one is crazy powerful. So you can add any HTML components to the map. So it can be images, it can be videos, it can be pretty much anything. I will show you more examples later, but we'll go back to give more example of this. Images, button, or even a play button like this. So you can play, you can pause, and refresh, and tag a color, or even a date picker. So you can add a date picker into the map. So the user can actually like select something. For example, okay, I want to display some imagery, but I want to source the data catalog, and then okay, this is the start date, this is the end date. So once the user select those, they can click the button and say, okay, source the imagery, and then display it. So this is certainly something you can do easily. You can pick a time if you want. Okay, date, time, the time zone. You can even pick a color. So you can specify what color you want to render the map if you want to. You can have an upload button, allow the user to upload something your program so they can render it. And there are a lot more other things in here. Also, like a box, basically a composite widget allows you to put a lot of things in there. We don't have time to cover every widget, but I will show you some common one. Before I get into that, I can show you, for example, leaf map. So you will have an idea what it looks like. Okay, so I'm going to use leaf map, and then I'm just going to create a map here using leaf map. And by default, you see, everything looks pretty much the same, just like your package. The only thing is different is this one. Do you see this one? This is using Ipywidget. So it's a composite of widget in there, but inside you can do a lot of things. For example, here, I can click this button, and this is actually the drop-down list. So I can allow the user, for example, if you select this one, okay, you're going to load the map. I can change the color map. I can, for example, global lane cover. Okay, and you can have tons of this data layer. Once you're done, I can close this button, and it's gone. So this is why it makes this kind of applications really powerful. Not just this. Maybe let me show you some other applications. How about this one? Not sure if it works or not. It may not. But okay. So this one allows you to source data, visualize data interactively. And this one just basically shows you all kind of components, right? I can click this one to hide it. And push here again, and you can have the drop-down list. Drop-down list. You can have the date, for example. You can have different items. So right now, maybe let me turn off this, all the data layer. Okay. So how about I zoom into this map? For example, right now, I'm working in a research project focusing on San Francisco. I want to get some raster data layer covering this area. And there are lots of data is available on the internet. For example, the Sentinel-2 cloud optimized GeoTIFF available on the AWS Open Data Program. So let's look at this one here, and I can just simply, for example, select the date. How about this? I want the latest imagery starting from April 1st right now, and I can source the data. Again, there's no guarantee it's going to work. Sometimes it will fail, but okay, there's no data available, really. Maybe let's change it to January. There might be some bugs, but I'm not sure if it requires a API token. Okay, this one looks like you see all the footprints. So I'm actually searching this data there, and you see all the images that I have searched. And then I can just select whatever image that I want, click. Then by default, I'm going to show you what kind of band combination you want to select, you want to display. I can just click display. It's clear all the outputs right now. There's some weird issues. Okay. Take a look. So this is a combination of multiple widgets. And to have this composite widget that allows you to query the data, source the data. Yes? Yes, it's from here. So this is a spatial temporal asset catalog. So basically behind the scene, there's some like URL that you can actually pull the data directly to here. And there are multiple data layers available. So for example, I can reset. How about this? I can also source data from not just AWS. I can source data from Microsoft planetary computer. So how about this? I'm going to maybe, for example, I'm going to look at some mountains. For example, here, I can source the data. For example, I want the, there should be some DM. For example, Eros was 3D DM, for example, this one. Okay. And I want some data for this area that I'm working on. I want DM. I can just select and then search. Hopefully, it will show you the footprint. All right. Take a look. So for this area, I have 3 images here. And then you can select this one of these 3 images. So I'm going to click one of those. And by default, I'm going to show you just one RGB at the data band. But you can select a color palette. So remember that when we add the raster, you can add a color palette. So I'm going to select maybe the terrain, and then display. I hope it works. Okay, see, now I have the imagery source directly from the data catalog, and then just render it. I can choose another one, create it. These things should be cleared up. I think I might need to look into it, but insert this here. I don't need to download any data. So this is so-called the cloud optimized GeoTIFF. It's pulling the data, creating the data, and so if you can design some of these like complicated widget, there are a lot of things you can do. So think about there are a lot of data on the internet. How do I source the data? How do I allow the user to query the data? And then what you want to do with the data. So this kind of thing is similar to the desktop GIS. You open the raster data layer and then trying to change the bank combination, change the stretch, change the value, whatever, do classification. There are so many things you can do with this kind of simple widget. But this is certainly a little bit complicated, but I just want to show you the potential. Like this is doable. This is something you certainly can do for your final project if you want to, and you can make it really complicated or you can make it really simple. So similarly, I will show you another applications. For example, Hugging Face. So once you design all of those, you can actually deploy the web, and then you can make the application run on the internet without using a Jupyter Notebook environment. At the end of the semester, we have time to cover some of this. For example, look at this. So this is the one, this is the button, right? Just the layer opacity. So you can see here, right? I have the footprint, I have the OpenStreetMap, right? And you see I integrated the slider into this widget. If I click this one, it's going to hide it. If I click again, it's going to show up. And look at this. All right. So now you need to know this slider. So you think about Ipywidget has so-called a composite widget, allows you to put all kind of widgets in there. You can think about it's just like a paper. And you can draw all kind of things on there. And then once you design every widget, you can have the widget to link to some actions. So you know, change the opacity, or I can have a checkbox to turn the layer on and off, right? Or I can also turn on the Google satellite-based map data layer like this. And I can also allow the user to select, for example, I have this widget. So this widget is going to show you all the data available, different events, different natural disasters. And then you can specify, okay, I want to get the imagery, for example, the start day, the end day, whatever, and then you're going to source all the images available. Right now, look at this. I'm going to hover my mouse here, and you can actually click on that. So once you click, it's going to select the imagery intersecting with your mouse click location. Right, now let's turn this one off and zoom in here. Right, so this is after the flooding. You see all the bridges have been broken, but you can also check this one, the split map. You can see the differences. This is probably after the recovery, so it's already connected, but the destruction of the location. This is exactly the same location in Libya. You see the damage that it has caused. Everything that you need to do is have this widget, right? So you can learn from this example. If your final project can have something like this to demonstrate, it should be good enough. Although you may not have this kind of complicated, but if you really want, click the files and then go to the pages. So from here, you can look at the source code, see how complicated it is. 200 to 300 lines of code is actually not that complicated, but you're welcome to read through that to see behind the scene how it's functioning. So you design all the widgets, and then every widget triggers something to do something. Oh, usually within, it can be multiple ways. You can have that within your map class, and then your map class, for example, add the widget, but every widget need to be linked to something else. So right now, if you see this here, I have something outside the map class, right? So this is get color palettes, get the day, get the widget, and then add the widget. So it can be outside the map class, but you can use the map as a parameter. So inside, it's going to, okay, create a drop-down widget, do all the things, so put all the widgets together, and then observe the widget, and then whenever we change the data set, it's going to do something. But at the end, you should be able to see the interaction map.add widget, map.add widget. So then you put everything inside here. This is essentially the same as map.add control. So you have the widget, and then put the widget in the control, and then put the control in the map. Kind of multiple steps. Right now, this seems really complicated, but in the next lecture, I cover you step by step how do we design a complicated widget and then put it into the map. The early example only shows you the slide as one single one, but you can have multiple widgets together as a single widget. So it can be a box, it can be a vertical box, it can be a horizontal box. You can make things really, really complicated. So this is just shows you one example. So once you have this, then you can actually do it for anywhere. So you have a mouse, right? So now, do you know how this is done? Like can you add a vector data layer to your map? You know how to add a GeoJSON to your map, right? You know how to change the hover color when you hover your mouse on the data? All right. So this is pretty much done. The only thing that you need is to have something like this. Well, when you hover my mouse, I can have this widget to show me the attributes associated with that polygon that right now I'm selecting. And then I can also have this widget. So all I need to do is to figure out what this widget is, right? So this one, what is in this widget type? What's this called? Drop down, okay? This one, date picker, okay? Another drop down. This one, checkbox, 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 and that's it. All of them together, this one is called vertical box. Vertical box means you're going to have widget line by line, lined up like different rows. Or you can have a widget like called horizontal box. You'll be column by column. So everything is coming from here. It's like nothing complicated. It's part of those. So this is called container. Box, that means like usually you can have like horizontal box, vertical box. So you're gonna put everything together. It's a single box. And then you just pass this single box into the widget control, add the control to the map, then you're gonna have that. So it can be really simple, it can be really complicated, depends on what kind of things do you want. So the base example to learn is to just look at what leaf map can do, and then just learn from those examples. For example, I can have this. Simply just click the button, and then you will open the dialog box. Allow me, for example, to select a file to open on my computer. So in that way, you don't even need to write source code. I can just select, for example, okay, I want this one. I want to plot this shape file. Select, click, okay, apply, and hopefully it works. It's not automatically zoomed to that, but you can see here, I loaded the data layer. You don't even need to write source code. So there are a lot of widgets you can do to open data, visualize the data, to query, to search, to visualize. So many things. And everything is a widget, like I said. Widget control to the map. And you can remove everything if you don't want to. So for example, this is the map that I have right now. And it looks super complicated right now. I can just clear control. Take a look. So all gone. Everything is gone. So everything can be just like Lego. You can take it, put it in, you can take it out, and it's super flexible. Anyway, so today is just going to show you like some of the things you can do. And in the next lecture, I'm going to get your hands on how to really work with some of those widgets. And you can slowly build a complex widget you can put into the map. And then it allows you to display all kind of components within the map, interact with the map. Okay, so that's all for today.